All right, so let's get right to it. Well, we have the rapper Eve and Serena Williams. They are among a growing number of Black women who have married white men. Some people call it swirling, and it made headlines recently when a co-host on The Real said this.
And this is why I'm so emotional about it, because so many of our sisters are so lonely, and they don't want to admit it. And all they got to do is just take a chance, because we don't have the love that we need. And you need to go out and find that one person.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
You feel good. Yes. That one person that you can turn to when you have a bad day. And you don't have to turn to your girlfriends or your mama or somebody. You turn to that one person, he understands and looks in your eye. That's the one you keep, and I don't care what color he is.
Well, I'll be honest, I got a little emotional when I saw that. I'm sure women of all races can relate to feeling lonely at some point in their lives, but Black women especially have a unique set of challenges when it comes to meeting, dating, and marrying. So, Tia, you're the relationship expert. Why is it so hard out here for the sisters?
Well, we're dealing with a couple of issues that other communities just aren't dealing with. Number one, because of the history in this country with racial disparities, economic disparities, we have a high incarceration rate of African American men. So studies have shown that the rate of Black men in the age group of about 25 to 54 in comparison to Black women is actually 83 to 100. So for every 100 Black women, there are only 83 men, right?
So we outnumber them.
So we're outnumbering them. We also know the statistics around Black women getting higher education rates and things like that. So there are a lot of things that make it not an equal playing field. So we have that issue. But then we also have the other side of that coin is like what was going on at home when you have dads who aren't there. So what happens? You have a lot of the super moms. And super moms are great. We love them. We support them. But unfortunately, a lot of times that creates a different depiction of what womanhood should be like for an African American woman, right? So you see little girls growing up without men in the household, and Black boys growing up thinking that women do it all and Black women are workhorses. Right. And it sounds so harsh to say, but these dynamics impact how we feel.
Right, and that all Black women are like their mom.
All Black women are like their mom. You know, another thing that we don't talk about too is that we Black women have gone through so much trauma that we often loud them, but we don't talk about the trauma that they pass on because of their hurt. So a lot of Black men or Black boys grow up having very trying relationships with their mother. So how does that impact when you're ready to get into the dating world? How you see Black women, how you treat Black women, who makes you feel loved, who you think is special. So all of these things are on the laps of single Black women looking for a good man. So that's why you see someone like Lonnie Love, who's in a normal life phase thing, right? Like, so when you are in your 20s, you might want to build, but most people by their 30s or 40s, you want to build with a partner. And when it's hard to find a partner because there are real issues of like disparities in numbers, who's eligible, who's ready, you're sad. You know, so her loneliness, her tears are definitely real and felt by a lot of women. And you know, it's a trying situation for women who are hyper-focused on only dating Black men.
Right. So, Tequilla, I know that you are not with it.
No.
And so you heard that video from The Real.
I did.
All the statistics from Dr. Tia here. So why aren't you with it?
I just feel like there is no comparison. Like, there is nothing that you can tell me that anyone else can bring to the table that can compare to what Black men provide. And it's just that safety that you feel, not having to explain nuances, not having to explain why you may react to things a certain way. You just can be, and they get it, and they feel you, and it's that unspoken bond that you can't create with other races. Like, it's just not there. Like,
well, I'm sure Black men everywhere are applauding as you say that. But have you ever tried dating a white man?
No. I haven't tried not to. I haven't tried not to. I haven't had someone approach me and me say, no, you're not Black, so I'm not gonna talk to you. But I haven't actively gone out and searched for it. I just
not interested.
No, I just feel like even in a conversation, like I can feel my mind drifting away. Like I'm not engaged. I'm not feeling that bond, that connection. That there's just certain swag and flavor that Black men just have. That is just, there's no way to duplicate it. There's no way to replicate it.
But Nichole, you are feeling that connection because I know that for the last 5 years, you've dated almost exclusively white men.
Yeah, and that's not on purpose. It's just how it ended up happening. I dated Black men almost exclusively in my youth up until maybe 30, 33, something like that. But I don't have a problem dating whoever's going to take care of me, whoever's going to treat me well, whoever treats the people around me well, whoever is a good person. I'm just like, I try to be open and open-minded about who I can have in my life. And I don't want to limit myself that way because I think good people are good people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did the statistics have anything to do with that, the social climate in terms of Black women dating?
Yes, I'm from Nashville, which is a very white town. And when I started online dating, the people who were matching with me were mostly white men. And I will say, to be, honest, to give full disclosure, a lot of them were coming at me with some racist fetishizing bullshit. And of course, I eliminated all of that. I did not, for the most part, entertain any of that. A lot of them were coming at me with some kind of like, do you dominate? Can you dominate me? Kind of thing in the bedroom. Yeah, they wanted me to like beat them up and like step on them and shit like that. And then finally I was like, okay, well, let me see. I was like,
so you started beating them up?
A little bit, yes. I let somebody be my sub, my submissive, the person that I like kept on his knees all the time. And I like that. And so that helped me discover a part of myself that I kind of knew about, but wasn't allowed to explore in my relationships with Black men because, of course, they're into like, they were into like tying me up. But when I was like, okay, well, let me tie you up, they were like, no, we're not doing that. Well, why not? Like, if I'm supposed to trust you with that kind of thing, why can't you trust me? So there's a lot of that. Like, it's not just the sex, but it's also like this performance of masculinity that comes into play sometimes when I'm talking about just strictly like a sexual relationship, a casual relationship between like, white men and versus Black men. So that's part of also why I seem to kind of gravitate more towards white men in the last few years, even though I do miss the swag of Black men. I miss the smell. Like they're really, that's terrible, right? But there is like a little bit. But there's like a smell, and there is something about not having to explain certain things or whatever, or not having to like just let go of certain things. So I do understand that. I'm not saying that that's not important, but there are other things that I think that sometimes I just kind of am like, well, you know what? I just want to do the eat me out, and that's what I want.
I think it's hard because you dropped that bomb.
I'm sorry.
Because when we talk about Black and white men, we talk a lot about stereotypes, and swagger and being submissive, but it's so hard just to find someone that you're compatible with overall, regardless of race. And I think that's really what Lonnie was speaking to. Like, right. I want to be loved by someone. And the biggest thing she was saying about James is that he gets me. And there is, I think, a more of a focus for women specifically to date Black men because, unfortunately, one of the good stereotypes and bad stereotypes is that they are swagger, they are more masculine, they make us feel strong and protected. And, it's just challenging because there are Black men who come in. There are Black men who would be your subs.
Yes.
There are Black men who don't have swagger.
Yes.
But the challenge for us as Black women in general is because of so many different variables, including how Black women are perceived by mass culture or culture at large, sexually. And as someone to protect and love and value, just finding a mate in general, it's challenging. So when you add the layer of, I only want this kind of guy, and he has to have this kind of swag. So not only are you looking for just a Black man, you're looking for a special kind of Black man. It's a challenge.
So you're on board with Black women expanding their options and considering other races?
I think that it's important for you to definitely expand your options, but you have to be honest with yourself. Like, personally, you have to figure out who you're attracted to, but what are the core values that will make a relationship work? Right? So you can't just say, okay, go date white men or Asian men or Latino men because, there's this disparity in the numbers. Can I have a functioning, healthy relationship with a man of another ethnicity? But also, what am I looking for in my partners? Because, there are available Black men, but a lot of times we are focused on the wrong things about eligibility. So, so it has to be a balance of all of those things.
So speaking of available Black men who are educated, who have not been incarcerated, who are suitable matches for us, are there just enough of them around?
Well, I think the numbers would say no, right? Because if we look at even like the numbers in terms of going to college, they'll say that there's a huge disparity. Black women are killing it there. But the reality is when we're picking, we don't actually have to pick so concretely. Because a man has not gone to college, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a viable career. Just because a man has been incarcerated doesn't mean that he's dead to the world. And I'm not saying you have to go, marry. What do they have those shows like Married Out of Jail? But there are people, we know that our men are unfairly incarcerated. So sometimes someone might have a record and it's like, okay, well, what did you really do? And is it something that prohibits you from being a healthy partner? But the reality is we do have to think differently to effectively hunt because we are at a disadvantage statistically, and it sounds unfair, but that's just our fact. So now what?
But Nichole, have you encountered any challenges dating a white man and just going out and about in the world?
Besides getting tied up.
I mean,
But she liked that. She liked that.
I mean, of course, they say racist things. They are clearly not interested in me as a person. They're interested in me because I'm Black.
All of them?
Not all of them, but those are the kind.
challenges that you
Yeah,
face.
like if it's I guess I should say for people who approach me, not necessarily the people that I date. The people that I end up dating, the challenges are, sometimes I'll come home and I'm trying to explain my day and I'm trying to explain a microaggression, that somebody like did something to me at work that was clearly because I was Black and they were white. And, he might say, oh, I'm sure that's not the case. I know a Black man would be like, what you need me to do, he would be ready to go, but a white man is trying to like tell me, no, that's just in my imagination sometimes. And then other times, there are like the woke white guys who are just really like, they want to try to get academic with it and whatever. And it's just like, I just need you to listen. So either way, there's a little bit of like, just listen to me when I'm venting. You don't necessarily have to solve anything, that kind of thing.
But is dealing with all of that worth it?
I mean, it passes the time, yes. And
Wow.
I mean,
that sounds so unfulfilling.
But I'm sure you're looking for more than that.
it depends. Like sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I am looking for a relationship, and that is sad. And when I'm like, okay, who's going to give me some attention? There are definitely times where I'm just like, I just need some, a guy to talk to or whatever. But then there are times when I'm like, no, I just need somebody to like come over and then leave. And that's fine. And I think that's the problem that I've been having as I've gotten older, where, men sometimes don't understand that women aren't all looking for a relationship. They're not always trying to get to the altar. They're just trying to get you at their personal altar maybe, and that's it, and just go. And it's the men who don't seem to understand that they need to customize their approach. They need to customize their game. They always just want to like have the same results that causes me problems or stress.
And to that point, I think women can think, a little bit differently in terms of, identifying their hierarchy of needs, right? It's like, so if you want to date casually, what are you looking for? If you're trying to date seriously, what are you looking for? And really kind of itemizing the core values that are important. And of course, aesthetics are important too, because you want to be attracted to your mate.
Right.
But if you are super focused on being married or having a long-standing healthy relationship outside of marriage, you have to think about what's in my available pool.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, for Black women who are interested in dating white men, where do you find them? How do you go about it? Where do you start?
Okay, well, I am a bit of an introvert, so I kind of rely mostly on online dating. It's easy for me. Working in the media, it's hard for me to find men who date women, who are interested in women, I guess I could say that. And it's hard finding, at my age, men who are not already attached. So my pool is particularly small at this point in my life. So I just go online, or since I've moved to New York, I've been here about 3 years. Every now and then I'll, go out to a bar and do that kind of thing to, find somebody. I'm not great at that because I'm not good at flirting because I'm so direct, in case you haven't noticed, but I'm too direct. And a lot of times men, regardless of race, they want the chase. And I'm just like, no, I like you, you like me, let's do this. And they don't want that. They want to like do the whole hunting thing. And I don't have time for that. Like, let's just get to it. So for me, I tend to rely on online dating and occasionally the bar scene.
Well, speaking of online dating, I'm sure you know about this infamous OkCupid survey that came out in 2014 that said that Black women were rated the least attractive of all the women on the site.
Yeah.
Do you feel that when you're online dating?
Sometimes. There are definitely times where I'm like, this is dry, I'm not getting any matches, and I will delete my account for a couple of months and then come back refreshed or reset or something like that. I definitely feel, again, that sometimes men are just talking to me because they see brown skin if it's somebody who is not black. I think that the black men who that I do match with, they are overly familiar. They are very presumptuous in how they talk to me. And they, in the same way that you're kind of like, when you go to a black business and you're like, come on, I know you can hook me up. Why don't you give me an extra discount? I feel like a lot of times black men are approaching me in that same way, online anyway, where they're just kind of like, we're both black, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, well, can you try to figure out how to spell my name at least, that kind of thing. So I've definitely felt,
so do you feel like black men don't try as hard?
Online dating, yes. Yes, I will say that.
That's an interesting statistic. So what do you think about that? Do you think that black men need to step it up?
I feel like men in general, period, need to do better. Because I think on one hand, I understand that they are outnumbered, so they have more options. So if I had a whole bunch of people, then it's like, of course, I wouldn't really care that much because I'm like, well, if you don't want me, I got other options. So I understand that part, but I just feel that a lot of women are now settling, so they're making it harder for us. Because if you take any old thing, then the person after, they're going to feel like they can do the same thing to me that they did to you because you were just like, well, I'm lonely. Well, my pool is small. Well, you're making excuses. So you're just letting them call you whenever they want, not reply, cancel dates last minute, do whatever they feel like doing. And then when you get tired of it and they come to me, they think they can do that to me and it's not happening. So I don't think it's a black man, white man. I think just people overall need to treat people how they want to be treated.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge because you really have to understand the black man's beautiful plight, right? The educated black man's beautiful plight right now. Like the bar has been set lower, quite frankly, because they have so many options in terms of how they can treat people and what they can get away with and what people will forgive is very different. So when dating, we have to remember there's so many variables, right? Like what phase is he in life? The fact that men aren't always looking to settle down the way women are just in general, it becomes a conscious effort much later in their lives. And then when they want to, they can be extremely fickle on what the criteria is, right? So you have people, online dating because you have access to so many people. If someone upsets you or if there's a miscommunication, what do? You unmatch, you move on. In real life, you wouldn't do that, right? You ghost them, right? Yeah. So we have to be understanding that this is how they're operating. And I totally agree with you, Tequilla. I think it creates a challenge for women who are dating seriously and who don't want to settle and figuring out how do we now strategize to make sure that we are mindful of saying, like, if I want to be in a specific kind of relationship, I have to set up rituals of how we're going to treat ourselves earlier on. And they might not adhere to these rituals because they don't have to. And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily all bad guys.
Or that they are a bad guy themselves.
Right. It's because, when you're allowed to play, if I can play in the pool and, there's no time that you have to get out, why am I getting out at 10 o'clock, right? If I can play until 1 a.m. So I think that that's the biggest challenge for the community now, because if you talk to most guys who are, over 30, they'll say they want to be in a relationship. They want a certain kind of woman. But in terms of the practicalities of having the tools and the focus to understand how to strategically date, it's very hard because, they're thinking with all kinds of heads, right? And it's very tempting to have so many women coming at you or just available.
Right. But why is it that black men are so much more open to dating outside their race?
So let's look at how we're socialized overall, right? So there is a hierarchy in terms of beauty. And when we look at that, who's at the top? You always see blonde, blue hair, blue eye, blonde hair at the top. Those are the images, regardless of what's in your household. You can have the most pro-black household. Unless you are living, someplace with no television, no radio, you're not going to see that. So we know that men in general are more visually stimulated. So when they're in their play phase, they'll date different types of women, right? But because of systemic racism, let's just call it what it is, our men have been taught for many reasons, that we aren't at the top of the food chain. So not only are we not at the top of the food chain in beauty, we're also not in the top of the food chain in terms of femininity. And why is that? We go back to that other statistic we talked about. Men being out of the household and mom having to perform masculine duties, right? So if it's not mom, it could be auntie, it could be grandma. So now we're not looking at our women as the most beautiful or the person that needs to be doted on. And then what do the women do? Because you have to survive, you're what? You're strong. So that cape means I'm doing things that normally my feminine side isn't tapped into, and it makes it, it's just a cycle. And we know, we talk about this all the time, but we don't think about how it affects the actual dating in the world. So when I'm going out as a girl who had single women around me, I'm thinking in a more masculine way. As a boy who had single women around me, I'm thinking that Black women don't need me. Black women don't
continuously say we don't need you.
But we do, though.
But we do. We need you. We want you. We want to help you. We want to be helped by you. I need to be saved by you. And it's so hard for women to say those things.
Right. Well, here's a fact that many of us probably already know. According to the Pew Research Center, Black men are twice as likely to marry outside their race than Black women. So clearly, the brothers are not afraid to swirl. You just watched a clip from the show that covers the culture like no other. For every episode, I assemble a panel of thinkers, activists, celebs, and outspoken experts to give us their unfiltered opinions on the topics that matter to Black America. This is elevated, intelligent, and uncensored discussion, representing every perspective. The conversations we have when we're the only ones in the room. No topic is off limits. We're not afraid to go there, and we do it all live 5 days a week. Join me here every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media at twitter.com/Marlie Show. It's The Marlie Show. There's nothing else like it.